What's up, fitness friends? It's Coach Andres from the Strength Cave. Today, I want to talk to you guys about whether you need cardio to lose fat. For some reason, people have equated cardio as being mandatory when it comes to losing fat. And of course, if you do a Google search or you listen to those fitness experts in the gym, they're going to tell you you absolutely have to be doing cardio if you want to get lean and get shredded. But it turns out that this is sort of a case of the truth being stretched a little bit too far, and let me tell you why. First, we have to explain how fat loss actually works, and it actually comes down to a very simple equation, which is calories in minus calories out equals the energy balance or the change in energy stores. If the amount of calories out is greater than the amount of calories in, then we have a decrease in energy stores. Of course, we store most of our energy as fat, so when we say that we have a decrease in energy stores, really we can think of that as a decrease in fat stores as well. If your calories out continues to be greater than your calories in on a day-to-day basis, then over time, we're gonna see a decrease in overall body fat. So the way cardio comes into play here is by its effect on that equation that we just mentioned. When you do a lot of cardio, you greatly increase that calories out portion of the equation. When it comes to fat loss, this can help in a few different ways. Number one, it can cause you to lose fat even without changing your daily eating habits. Number two, it can make up for some inconsistencies or poor habits in your diet whereby you still lose fat even when you have some days where you sort of mess up on your diet. And number three, when combined with dietary changes and improved eating habits, it can lead to faster and more dramatic fat loss. So it's natural to see why people think that cardio is necessary for fat loss. On one hand, we have the people who don't necessarily count calories or macros or don't really have a very strong control of their diet whatsoever. And so when they start to introduce cardio, that's the only time that they actually start to see any fat loss happen. Those who do count calories and macros but maybe struggle with their consistency or their dietary habits will still lose fat in spite of that because of the extra caloric expenditure that comes from cardio, which preserves their caloric deficit. And for those who do count calories and have great habits, they'll see enhanced fat loss from adding cardio, which kind of gives people the impression that cardio is necessary to see such great results. But hopefully you're seeing a trend in all three of those scenarios that I mentioned, which is that all three of them require that you be in a caloric deficit. And although cardio does help to create a caloric deficit, as we saw with scenarios 1 and 2, it isn't the only way for you to create one. In fact, with scenario 3, we see that that person would still lose fat even without cardio because they're already creating a caloric deficit through their diet alone. So rather than looking at cardio as a requirement or a necessary evil that you have to engage in for fat loss, you should look at it as simply a tool for creating a caloric deficit. However, in my opinion, your first priority should be to make sure that your dietary habits are solid so that you can create a caloric deficit through your diet alone. This sets you up for long-term success, and it also gives you the flexibility to choose how you want to create the caloric deficit that will lead to fat loss. Maybe you want to drop a few pounds, but you really don't feel like decreasing the amount of food that you're eating at the moment. In that case, you just hold steady with your diet and you increase the amount of cardio you're doing to create that caloric deficit. Maybe you are willing to eat just a little bit less, so you create a small caloric deficit through your diet and make up the rest through increasing the amount of cardio you do. And maybe you, like seemingly the rest of America, really hates doing cardio. And so in that case, you're willing to just create the whole caloric deficit through dietary changes alone, and you don't even have to mess with getting on the elliptical or the Stairmaster or anything like that. So kind of wrapping it up for you guys, you don't have to think of cardio as a requirement when it comes to fat loss. Rather, just think of it as a tool in the toolbox that you can use whenever you see fit. If you're somebody who likes doing cardio or just doesn't mind doing cardio, then adding a little bit of cardio to your routine in order to create that caloric deficit isn't really a big deal. But if you're somebody that just really hates doing cardio, then that just means you're going to have to buckle down a little bit harder with your diet, create the caloric deficit through dietary changes alone in order to reach your fat loss goals. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that way you get all the updates when I put out these new videos for you every Wednesday. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, where I share a lot more of these helpful tips and infographics and other types of posts. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time.